Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus. Welcome back to another Monday. Joining me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our listeners. I have a really fun joke for you today.
Hit me.
What do you call a pile of cats?
A perpocalypse? Because I'm not going to be able to survive the cuteness bomb?
That is really clever. I like that. But it's a mountain.
A mountain. Okay.
I don't know. I like the perpocalypse.
Me too. For new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
We have some news to share with you guys.
Some really exciting news. We're going to have a baby.
Yeah. We found out a couple weeks ago. It was not planned, but it is an amazing gift and surprise.
Definitely. I cannot say how much I do not like morning sickness, but how I'm thrilled that the morning sickness is because of such a great present. And because of this, there's going to be some small scheduling changes with our channel.
Yes. Going forward, we'll be uploading on Mondays and Wednesdays instead of just having one big episode on Mondays. And for our Patreons, we'll be uploading on Fridays. It's to help facilitate all the changes that are coming in our life soon. So that way we're able to still stay on top of doing our content and all the life changes we got coming up.
Yeah, the last thing that we wanted to do was do less content. The only thing that we're doing is just splitting up. So why don't you go ahead and pick up that delicious morning brew and let me know what you think of it.
It smells like mango.
It is fruity.
Oh, yeah.
You hit it right off the bat. It's actually a prepared loose tea that I think tastes amazing in my opinion. It has pineapple, mango, orange slices, and absolute deliciousness after that.
So 5 out of 5.
Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning cup of brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole? My husband pantsed me while I was changing our baby's diaper, and I asked him to never do that again. Not a long story here. I, female 32, was changing our baby's diaper when my husband, male 37, snuck up behind me and pulled my pants down. Just the pants, not the underwear. He wanted me to include this part. He did it to make me laugh. I elbowed him and yelled at him. I apologized for elbowing him. It was just a reaction. I asked him to never do it again, and now he won't agree and keeps laughing. He says I'm overreacting, but I'm really just asking him not to do it again. I'm worried he's going to do it all the time now. He says he'll stop if the internet agrees with me, but he is confident you will all think he's hilarious. I really don't want to deal with this anymore. Please just say it's funny once, but not again.
I get playing jokes on each other and having the fun. But when someone tells you politely, because I didn't think she went out of her way to be mean about it, that's her boundary. And if you can identify that that's a boundary that your partner is putting down for you and you're willing to push past it so easily, you might want to go ahead and start getting yourself into counseling and understanding what those look like. Every time you change the baby, if you're having to be afraid that he's going to do this again while your hands are occupied and your concentration is elsewhere, to have to think about that behind your back, that wouldn't feel good, especially if you don't appreciate that type of joke. It was a one-off thing. He tried it. He thought it'd make you laugh. And that's acceptable to a point. I don't believe you would be the a-hole even in the slightest for making sure you set down boundaries and that you can feel comfortable in your own home around your child.
So the consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole, that the ask is definitely not a lot. And to really start questioning the husband regarding what they think is healthy boundaries. Now, there were a lot of commenters that went actually pretty far. And we actually have some updates from our OP that I think will surprise you. So let me go ahead and begin reading those. Update. You guys really need to chill, LOL. I'm not going to divorce my husband because he made a joke that didn't land. That's not how marriage works. In an ironic twist, I have decided we are now a pantsing house. I will pants him as often as humanly possible, and I will be wearing dresses to make myself invincible. Thanks for the terrible advice. Although I do agree that no means no, I just don't think it's that deep here. My husband is a really good guy and is genuinely hilarious, making the whole family laugh, so I'm going to let him do his thing. In an additional comment from our OP, they actually say, nah, he's seriously the bomb. Cooks dinner, cleans, stays up with the kids, makes me feel loved. But I think I'll throw him in the bin regardless. Despite the happy years, the pantsing was too far. Calling my attorney now. Now, there was a second update from this OP, and let me read that to you. OP says, so I turned off my notifications like 10,000 ago. From what I can tell, it's basically all the same stuff. Calling my husband immature or a creep, and then me a doormat for siding with him after reading your unhinged comments and realizing I wanted to be on the side of sanity. Kudos to the people who are like, hey, glad you guys can have a good time, because we do. We always do. Because we are happily married and we love each other and we like to joke around. Been married for 11 years. I highly encourage you all to laugh at your partner's jokes. And if you don't think it's funny, just tell them to stop and they will listen to you if they're the right person, like my husband is for me. Find someone who makes you laugh and likes to have fun, and don't squash their joy by being a stuck-up a-hole. You'll be happier if you lighten up, and so will they. Thank you for everyone who genuinely cared about my well-being. I really worded my post to make it sound like I didn't also think it was funny. To be fair, I was laughing while I posted this and didn't think anyone would respond. But thanks anyway. You've got a good heart. So have a good life, everyone. I doubt I'll ever get on this cursed app again. And please, for the love of all that is holy, never ask strangers on the internet for their 2 cents on your relationship. It's entertaining for like an hour, but you start to lose your faith in humanity. 32 female, out. Peace.
I would agree with that. If you're looking for any type of relationship guidance, maybe going to the internet as a whole, probably not the best idea. Just because you have a lot of people offering terrible suggestions like that, throw away the entire marriage. All I suggested was that if he doesn't understand what a boundary is, definitely go get into some counseling so you can figure that out. They're obviously not a new couple. They've been around together for at least 11 years is what she said. They have multiple kids.
Correct.
You know, telling everyone that when they see a red flag, like pushing past the boundary, that it's okay when you worded it that way is a little odd.
I would have to agree with that as well. I think the faux pas really falls on the OP. And a lot of Redditors came out saying, look, you came on Am I the A-hole? And you're asking for the advice of truly total strangers. You didn't paint the picture correctly if you're here trying to defend your husband now, which you're the one that painted him in that light where now he's not respecting what you're asking for unless you come to internet strangers to get that type of approval. That's a little odd. I found this post particularly interesting just because of how it, in my mind, totally changed when it came to the update.
Yeah.
Because for you and I, we have to read it at that face value until you found out that it wasn't as serious as what we initially thought. Then you have to go ahead and reevaluate how you're looking at it. Not in the way of maintaining healthy boundaries, but the fact that in this situation, technically a boundary never even got crossed based on what OP was saying.
Now, if she had quantified the relationship the way she did in the update, then no one has these problems. If you go, hey, I'm 11 years into a relationship. We've had kids already.
We joke around a lot in the family, but this one didn't seem to hit right.
This is his reputation. We love these things about our relationship. Yeah, I don't know. Her reaction to everyone's reaction is a little unfounded in my opinion. Only because, yes, you're right. You came to an AITA post and put something about someone not respecting a boundary. And I think that's what we talk about all the time here is you're allowed to do things, but when the other person in the scenario tells you no, you have to accept no.
And unfortunately, when you come to the internet, you're going to get a mixed bag of reactions.
So hopefully it's nothing. And again, maybe she's right about how everyone overreacted, but I'm still never going to get behind hearing someone's boundaries be pushed and then you accepting them. Outside of, again, I don't believe divorce is like the first step on that.
I also don't believe in divorce as being the first thing, but I don't think OP painted her husband in the right light if they actually look up to them in the way that they do. And just to forewarn anyone, if you're posting for advice on anything on the internet, please take it with a grain. There are people with a lot of good experiences, but in the end, the choices are yours and you shouldn't base it off of other people.
Yes, definitely. Even us.
That's right. Well, let's go to our next story and see what you think about banning a daughter from dinner. Am I the a-hole for being rude to my stepdaughter and banning her from eating with the family? I have 2 stepdaughters, Scarlett, 18, and Ava, 16. Scarlett is an amazing singer. She's been in some kind of voice lessons since she was 10 and just graduated from one of the best performing arts schools in the state. where she went on a full scholarship since 6th grade. She has a YouTube channel where she sings that she's starting to make money from and was accepted into some very prestigious music schools. Additionally, she has been working paid gigs for the last 2 years and makes at least $500 to $1,000 per week, more in the summers. She's even been the opening artist at a few concerts. I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying she's an objectively good singer. Ava, on the other hand, is not a good singer. She likes to believe she is, and she might become one if she actually stuck with the voice lessons or choir classes, but she always quits about 1 to 2 weeks because they're bullying her, giving constructive feedback. I've seen the notes her classmates and teachers have given her. Ava also likes to sing very loudly and or at bad times. For example, if she feels that we're too quiet at the dinner table, she starts to loudly sing. It doesn't sound good, and I honestly don't know how she doesn't hear it. If you ask her to stop, she keeps going. And if you're blunt and say stop, that doesn't sound good / we don't want to hear it, she keeps going and gets even louder just to annoy you. If we're in the car and we don't let her choose the songs, she'll loudly sing whatever she wants, not what's playing, to annoy us, and responds the same way to us telling her to stop. The only person she listens to is her dad. A few weeks ago, we were trying to eat and she was singing again. I told her to stop, and she refused. So I took her plate and told her from now on she is no longer allowed to eat at my table. She can eat in her room, the backyard, her car, the garage, wherever she wants, as long as we can't hear her from the dining room, and that this will continue until she can behave appropriately at the table. My husband and I argued about it, but he's not home for dinner, so there isn't much he can do about it. Today, she was eating lunch with us and started singing again. I told her to stop, and she didn't listen. So I again took her plate and told her to eat somewhere where we can't hear her, if she doesn't want to act appropriately. Ava argued that she's a better singer than Scarlett, and that Scarlett sings all the time. I was done with her bullshit. So I asked her how many times someone other than her dad has actually asked her to sing. Not even paying her to be there. Just ask her to sing, or how many performing arts schools she's gotten accepted to. She's applied to many. She started to cry, and my husband wants me to apologize for being rude to her and is insisting I allow her to eat with the family again. Am I the a-hole? Just to make some things clear from the OP in the comment section, they say the other sister, which is Scarlett, does not sing at the table. And Ava is good at something, soccer, but she doesn't want to join the school team and instead wants the parents to pay hundreds for her to go to a soccer club, but the OP refuses until she sees some commitment from Ava to stick with the free school soccer team.
Now, the OP is the stepmother.
Correct.
Okay. So how old is Ava?
Ava is 16.
All right. And her eldest sister is?
18.
18. So we have Ava and Scarlett. It sounds like Ava is very envious of Scarlett. Sounds like Scarlett's career and the trajectory of her life is very different and very apparent to Ava, because I can see that through the writing here. Ava doesn't put in the same amount of time and grind to work on her voice. They've sent her to classes. She's refused to take on the criticism and the advice of her peers and teachers. So it's resulting in what she believes is a terrible singing voice that Ava repeatedly keeps throwing on them during, I guess, anytime there's quiet. I'm not certain how long this behavior has been going on. Maybe she's not getting the social cues yet. I would wonder if it's more about trying to show off and, like, hey, look, I understand that my sister's very successful right now, but I'm still your daughter. It kind of sounds like she's looking at the youngest in a pest type situation. That's how I'm hearing. I'm not hearing love coming out of that situation at all, because she's not as successful as Scarlett, the eldest. And that's how she's looking, in my mind anyway, at how much she should love and tolerate. Because if your eldest daughter, Scarlett, was singing at the table, I guess you wouldn't have any problem with it, because in your mind, she sounds amazing.
Well, and that was what some Redditors were saying, which is why I put out there that Scarlett doesn't sing at the table. Apparently, our OP was very straight off with the point that Scarlett only sings in appropriate settings, where Ava has pushed beyond singing to become more, I guess you can say, of an annoyance because they do it anywhere, no matter what people think.
Now, there are a time and a place to do things. I can agree with that to a certain extent. I can understand if someone's being annoyed by something, regardless of if you're the parent or you're the child. When you put down boundaries, they need to be respected. Both ends. The way, though, that our OP has gone about showing how much she loves one of the daughters versus the other based off of inherent
Talent.
skill and talent is gross. Again, maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I brought up that our OP was straight up with saying that Scarlett is very good at something, and that's soccer. But Ava has that reputation of not actually committing to something.
Yeah, quitting, essentially. Correct. There's a difference between quitting something and trying and failing. I can get behind failing. We all do. You're supposed to. It's what makes us better and learning.
That's how you learn.
But if you're unwilling to at least try, that's a problem. Those are lessons you have to teach your children. It sounds like Ava, again, not knowing anything about their situation, to her stepmother's eyes, doesn't even want to try even a little bit at things, but wants to be
instantly the best at something.
Yes. Like, again, why aren't you getting into your school's soccer league? Why does it have to be at a club? Because you're right. If you're unwilling to start at the bottom, what makes you think you're going to get to the top?
But would you accuse this as being something that a 16-year-old is responsible for, or the possible parenting behind it?
Definitely not. 100% the parenting comes into play here.
It sounds like, at least based on how I read it and understand it, is that in order to get Ava to listen, she tried to hit her insecurities.
Which is terrible. That whole conversation should have never happened like that. The fact that you're able to weaponize the success of her sister against her, pretty bad. And then at the background of all this, you're willing to take family time away and use it as a weapon. If you're unwilling to listen to me, you can't be at my dinner table. My table. You're a family. That's our table. You have no right to take someone from that. Now, yes, you can have conversations and start teaching them how to respect boundaries. That's important. There's better ways to go about showing them those things without making it feel like you are in a full concessional relationship with your child. So OP, you are definitely the a-hole.
So the consensus on Reddit is our OP is definitely the a-hole. For many Redditors, the issue comes that an adult attacked the character of a child rather than having a proper teaching moment. And additionally, there were some Redditors that said, look, Ava needs counseling to help with the envy and the lack of respect that she has for others. You're not helping her actually be a person that understands that you can have your little form of envy. Everybody's got some form of envy from one thing. I wish I could be one way. Another person wishes they could be another way. Those are all feelings that every individual has to learn to work through. But you can't expect that a child knows how to work through them when you haven't given them the proper tools. That's where counseling is definitely needed, because you can see where this really big flaw in her envy and how she lashes out shows a very lack of respect that she has for, it seems like, her stepmother and her sister. But she learned that from her stepmother first, when she's being told to stop. I don't want to listen to you. Your singing's bad.
You can definitely tell the 16-year-old is trying to just get attention. And I would understand, especially when you're talking about the success of Scarlett. She's just trying any way she can. And if it's pushing past boundaries to get it, because the thing is, attention, regardless if it's negative or positive to a kid, is attention.
I think the other thing that really struck me was how our OP's comments make it feel, at least to me when I was reading through them, as if she expects Ava to be this adult that understands. Ava's 16, yes. 16 is usually when you start to, at least, mind you, this is just from my 16-year-old perspective. It was when I started truly reflecting on, who do I want to be? How do I want to act? Where do I want to fit in? What's right for me? Those were those pivotal moments back from when I can remember being 16. But if Ava never got a good foundation to begin with, that's where everything is going wrong here. I hope that Ava truly gets the counseling that she needs to help her process her feelings and is able to reflect on herself so that it doesn't cause more issues, at least socially. Because if you have someone who has learned to disrespect others and finds it okay, you're going to end up being a very lonely person later on in life until you learn to respect others.
Hopefully the OP has seen those comments, though, and she got given that type of advice so that way they can move forward in a healthy direction for everyone involved in the home.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about inappropriate announcements. Am I the a-hole for announcing our pregnancy at my brother's wedding after he proposed at mine? My brother said he was going to propose at my wedding. I told him no, that it was a day about myself and my wife, and we did not want any distractions. My mom lost her shit. She said that he wanted family he might not see again for a while to be a part of the proposal. I said I did not give a shit, and that if he did it, I would have him kicked out. He did it, and my mom said if I tried kicking him out, she would leave too. I just remember seething inside. My brother got married last weekend. Instead of a welcome to the family toast, I used the time to announce that we were expecting our first baby. My mom was upset, but my grandmother told her to sit down and shut up. We spent most of the reception talking to family we would not see again for a while about our coming baby. My mom says I was an a-hole for taking attention away from my brother on his wedding day. She got really mad when I reminded her that she'd threatened to leave my wedding if I kicked him out after he proposed. I have the screen cap of the text messages. Am I the a-hole?
'Tis peak, my lord.
Straight ankle in this establishment.
Yes. Everyone sucks in this situation. All of you suck. But I can't blame people for being human. If someone does you wrong and that's the way you choose to live your life, can I be upset with you? No, I can still call you an a-hole. You're just as bad as your brother. But hey, you reap what you sow in life, and that's why you gotta just treat people the way you'd like to be treated, because they will give it back to you. I cannot be upset with that. This one left a smile on my face. But yeah, in my opinion, everyone sucks. You really should pick your time and place. And you're allowed to ask the questions. Can I propose? Can I announce these things during your big day? But if someone tells you no, respect it.
Well, I find it funny. Let me go ahead and give the consensus here, and then we'll delve right into it. So the consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. A lot of Redditors said this was a lesson that the other brother learned the hard way. Some say the OP should have asked, and then if he rejected, then he should have announced it, because then it would have been fair. But he never asked to begin with, so a little faux pas right there. However, I do have an update. Okay, so some bad news and some amazing news. Bad news, my brother figured out that we weren't really pregnant at his wedding and he was livid. As is my wife. I don't really care. I know it's childish, but he started it. The amazing news? We are pregnant for real. We were pregnant at the wedding, but we didn't know. Thanks again for validating my immature and vengeful nature. I guess I have to grow up now. Sorry for the short post, but I'm so excited I almost didn't post at all.
Very topical. I still don't agree, and I still think you're an a-hole. I'm not validating any of those actions, but hey.
It sounds like the relationship isn't really there, and it's probably the fault of the mother if she's playing favoritism the way that she is. However, I completely back up the OP. If somebody did something that was wrong on your day, I mean, you got your lesson learned. Treat others with kindness and respect. Otherwise, you'd be surprised at how you'll be treated the other way around. Well, I'm actually truly excited for them. I find it funny that they just thought to do this just to kind of stink on their day. And then they actually came true and they are pregnant.
What a wild way to have announced that. My thing comes back to this. If you're so worried that you want a bunch of family that you're never going to see again be there, then make sure you make those accommodations. You know, there's times and places outside of a wedding to have that with people, not during it when everyone's around for this one reason.
I agree. If anything, you could have asked family if they could have just stayed a day longer, or maybe even planned something before then.
It could have been a dinner or an outing or something like that prior to the wedding or after it. You know, there's ways you can accommodate the wishes that you want without having to do it right smack dab in the middle of the event you guys are all there for.
I find it interesting because there was actually a Redditor that said in a comment, look, when it came to going to a friend's wedding, him and his girlfriend at the time, they were in a very committed relationship, and he had had his ring for her to propose in his pocket and has had it for a week. He had this whole idea planned, but they were at the wedding and they decided to walk out and they just got to talking, and it was the perfect time for him to ask her. But here's the difference there. He, or this commenter, asked his fiance for her hand away from everyone. It was a private, intimate moment. They weren't trying to be the spotlight in someone else's moment. And there were a lot of Redditors that came out saying, look, that's perfect. Spontaneous proposals are amazing. In this case, it was premeditated by the brother because he wanted the attention.
Mine was planned to you on a beach.
In the most fun way possible.
We'll have to tell that story at some point. I'm not sure if we've shared that yet, but she made me chase her down the beach.
I didn't know you were proposing.
Another time, another day, though.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about uninvited guests. Am I the a-hole for showing up to hang out with her family? She asked me not to. For the record, we're both girls. I love my girlfriend a lot, but we don't meet eye to eye on some stuff. She is bi and progressive, but old-fashioned sometimes. Her parents are Asian and first gen, after all. I've been dressing in outfits that are a lot more revealing. I just find it fun to do. I've been getting stares and looks, but I don't care. We're home for the summer from university, and she has been spending a lot of time with her family. I used to be around her family a lot, but she doesn't want me to dress how I do around them. She said it would leave a bad impression, and she doesn't want her sister to start dressing like me either. We got into an argument where I said her parents should just put up with it. It doesn't matter what I wear. She disagreed and said it's a matter of respect for the people around you. She said it would be embarrassing for a man to show up to meet her parents half naked. It's not cool for me to do that either. She made a comment like, my immigrant parents do their best to blend into American culture and understand you, and you can't even put on clothes to show a little respect for my parents. Which I didn't like, because obviously what I wear shouldn't matter. If they see that as respect, they're dumb for that. That's all there is to it. They need to grow up. I do feel bad because her past relationships have gone out of their way to be respectful for her family, including learning a little bit of her parents' first language. I want to do that, but I also want to dress how I want. But she said if I want to dress like that, I can. But she's not going to invite me to hang around her family, which really threw me up. I used to hang out with her family all the time. I mean, they aren't happy about the gay thing, but they accepted it. They can accept how I dress now. So I knew the restaurant my girlfriend was at and just showed up. Her parents were a little rude and looked scandalized. They asked if I was wearing a bikini top and going to the beach after. I told them no, firm, and they shut up. My girlfriend totally ignored me, and it was obvious she was upset with me. When we left, it was obvious she was pissed, and she said, if I don't invite you, you don't come, period. She has been mad at me about it, but I think what I did was awesome. I hope her sister starts dressing like me, honestly. I told her I was just proving it wasn't a big deal what I wear. Am I the a-hole?
What the spasm with the boo? I will say this because it's as true as the sky is blue. Acceptance goes both ways. And if you're unwilling to accept that that's their values and that's how they look at life, then why should they do that for you? Your girlfriend put down boundaries. That's fantastic. She didn't tell you that you couldn't dress and act the way you wanted. She said you couldn't do that around her folks. If you're unwilling to adhere by the rules that they have or the set of values that they have, you don't have to be around there. No one's forcing that interaction. The only one forcing that is you. I think you have a lot of boundary issues. Being able to identify that we can't force people to accept everything about us is important in life. Respect each other. That's a good place to start. And you don't have that. Not for anyone else that looks at life differently than you. So in my opinion, OP, the amount of entitlement that you exhibit and show here is palpable.
I was going to say disgusting.
Well, we'll go with that too. They're young. They said they're still in college and they're home on vacation, I believe.
Correct. They don't say their age, but yes, they do say that.
Learn from the experience. This doesn't make you a bad person. It does raise eyebrows, though. I hope your girlfriend can see where you don't understand what boundaries look like yet, but learn them. Life doesn't work that way. You can't force people to adhere to your set of values. So, yeah, in my opinion, OP, you need to grow up. You're an a-hole.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP is definitely the a-hole. And let me go ahead and read this one comment that I think really stuck out. They said, you're the a-hole. Nothing is better than blatant disrespect and boundary stomping in a relationship. You don't sound mature enough for a relationship. No wonder she doesn't want you around her sister. Does that not tell you enough? You embarrass her. I have secondhand embarrassment for you. Don't dwell on it too long, though. Her next relationship will probably be everything yours isn't. Respectful of family, respectful of her, kind, understanding. I'm so excited for her.
I need some aloe vera.
Those
that
burns.
burn was real.
I definitely agree with the harshness that a lot of these commenters put out there. There was blatant disrespect, not just for how others were feeling, but literally interjecting yourself into a situation to try and twist it in your favor and then forcing people to put up and shut up. That is an awful way to live your life. And I think, at least when it comes to how I see a lot of people acting nowadays, it's very disappointing. Where's the respect and kindness and understanding from others? How can you request that back when you don't give it first?
It's the truth.
For me, secondhand embarrassment, yeah, that sounds about right. Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about tattoos.
I got them.
Am I the a-hole for getting a matching tattoo to my son? I am not a fan of tattoos, only because they are so ubiquitous now. When I was a kid, tattoos were rare and rebellious. Nowadays, they are everywhere, and that's fine. People can decorate themselves however they want. But, for example, my grandfather had tattoos. His were from when he was in the military and were a memorial to his friends. My son, 19, has wanted a tattoo since he was little, so I told him that was okay, but to really consider whatever he got and have it be at least a little meaningful and not just do it to be cool. I told him if he got something and it had no special meaning, I would get the exact same one. I guess he thought it was an empty threat because he got a tribal armband tattoo. I asked him about it and he said it just looked cool. Okay, well, I have disposable income and a high pain tolerance. Now we have matching tattoos and he no longer wants to show his off. He says I'm an a-hole for getting a tattoo just to prove a point. I think it's silly to get a meaningless tattoo to look cool. Am I the a-hole?
You're a gigantic a-hole with a lot of time on your hands. Who are you to place value in anyone else's things that they put onto their body? That's one of the most wildest stories I think I've heard on this channel. And we've had plenty. But as far as parenting is concerned, how awful a lesson to try to teach your kid. Why would you put something on your body with no value? I don't know how old you are, but you literally just did that to your body because it had nothing to do with you. At least your son sat there and went, you know what? That's cool. I want that. Your logic in this situation makes zero sense to me. Who cares what the reasons are for the tattoo that you put on your body? I have seen plenty. And you know what I've never done? I have never asked people the meaning of their tattoos. I admire them for what they are. Whether or not I like them or not has no consequence on that person, nor should I have to inflict how I feel onto them. And for the mere fact that you had to go out of your way to, in your mind, shame your son. Because I don't think he says anything about how he's got tattoos before this.
No.
This is his very first tattoo.
Yes.
That he had to copy his 19-year-old son to make a point.
Correct.
I'm kind of shocked at this because tattoos are very personal to the person.
Whether it's for amusement, whether it has a deep meaning, or just as cool.
He should never have had to quantify the meaning of that tattoo to you. I guess in my mind, it's the double standard here. Why was it okay for you to have done it? Because I wanted to prove a point. Point proven, dude. You're an a-hole.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is our OP's definitely the a-hole. In fact, many Redditors came forward saying they have tattoos that don't have any meaning, but are fun because why not? It's their body and other people shouldn't make them feel ashamed of it. I find it funny that they say people can decorate themselves however they want. I feel like in it, there should have been a parenthesis that says, except for my son.
Yeah, because you have some weird ownership over how he conducts himself in his life. We had a friend that wanted to get a tattoo of a Waffle House on the back of his
remember
ankle.
that.
I couldn't have been more happy for him. I find it funny, but that doesn't mean that he shouldn't get it. That's ridiculous.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about this possible wedding guest. Am I the a-hole for not attending my friend's 2 weddings? Edited for length. I, 36 female, have a situation with one of my best friends forever, 45 male, that I think is putting a wedge between us. My friend, let's call him Adam, got married to Eve, 38 female, 1.5 years ago. They had 2 weddings, a normal one and a Chinese one, and I was invited to both. I've been a really close friend of Adam's for many years. We used to live in the same city, and Adam would always invite me as his date to galas and other events, take me to nice dinners, introduce me to really interesting people like professional athletes, artists, and other people he knows. And before you ask, we never dated. While he has a heart of gold, Adam isn't my type. We did make out once or twice, but nothing serious. I moved to a city a few hours away, and since then, I haven't seen Adam as often, though we still text regularly. About 3 years ago, he met Eve and had a whirlwind relationship and got engaged after about a year. I haven't met Eve, but she seems nice enough, though I get the sense her travel schedule between her homes is part of why I never see Adam anymore. Now to the wedding. Adam used to make my birthday a really big deal. We'd always go out and go to a really nice show and a high-end meal, dress up, etc. I guess for me, it was always a bit like our friendship anniversary night. So I was surprised when I saw the first wedding was supposedly taking place on my birthday weekend. I called Adam and told him, would he think about changing the date? Because I was planning something with friends in my city and I couldn't imagine him not coming. He had never been to my city before, and I thought now that my live-in boyfriend and I called it quits, he could come stay the weekend too and see my city and life around here. It was only a save the date, so I figured there was still time to change it, and it wasn't even the big Chinese one. When we talked on the phone, not only did he say he couldn't change the date, but also he refused to honor my request to not invite an ex of mine. I will not attend any event with this man there, and Adam knows this. I admit I might have gotten heated on the phone. A few months after that, Adam texted me if I'm going to attend the Asian wedding and if I can update my RSVP one way or another since there's a lot of people to account for. I just ignored him because I felt so disrespected from the last time we talked and figured with all the relatives and aunties coming over from China that he wouldn't be able to get an accurate head count anyway. I did send him a nice entryway mat for his house off the gift registry just to try to smooth things over. Since then, we still text pretty frequently, but I feel things are off and I miss the connection we used to have. Adam recently visited my city for some job-related stuff and didn't even make time to hang out. I'm beginning to wonder if maybe I was too harsh in declining to come to both his weddings, and that's hurt our friendship. Am I the a-hole?
The audacity of some people is wild. You're beginning to wonder. It has nothing to do with the fact that you didn't go to the weddings, because there's a plethora of reasons why people can't attend weddings. So I don't know if he's super upset with that. What I think the crux of the matter here is that you believed that when you got called the first time about the wedding, that because it was happening on your birthday weekend, because she didn't say the day. She said weekend, because apparently that's how birthdays work. You get a whole weekend attached to that, not the day. Shows kind of where your mindset's already at and how you conduct yourself. And you hear here where her entitlement is through the roof. Her answer to her friend was, hey, it's on my birthday weekend. You mind moving it?
No.
Have you ever been a part of planning for a wedding? Do you understand what that looks like? You can't just nilly-willy pick another day because it happens to fall on a birthday weekend of your supposed best friend. Because I think she calls him BF.
Correct.
That ain't your best friend. Not if you're willing to treat them like that. Because all I heard from her side was that he makes me feel special on my birthday. And it's kind of this grandiose affair that happens during that time of year. That's fantastic, but I don't hear where you're doing that for him. It doesn't sound like it goes both ways. Now, maybe I'm nitpicking or going too far because I don't hear the other side, but all I heard was that he's not doing as much for you, so now you get to treat him any which way. Demand him change the day of a wedding. And then I think the last thing I heard that kind of irked me was that now that her boyfriend, her live-in boyfriend is no longer there, it's acceptable for him to now come to her city and experience everything. What? Why would that have...
really off there, isn't it?
Yes. And she's like, oh, we've only kissed like once or twice. Nothing's been there. It doesn't explain why he couldn't have just been invited any time to come and share a weekend or hang out and do best friend things, right? That's just how I'm kind of looking at it. But now it's acceptable to now hang out when you don't have a boyfriend? Odd.
And with an engaged man, no less.
I buy shenanigans for everyone all around. I think an acceptable... No, I don't think so. People move on in life Friends fall in and out of contact and you move on. When you're at different stages of life, that happens. Unfortunately, that's kind of what comes along with life. So yes, in my opinion, OP, you are the a-hole for the level of audacity and entitlement that you showed during this.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP is the a-hole. In fact, exactly like you said, many of them said the audacity, the entitlement, it seeps right through. And for me, something more. I read this and you can hear so much that just seems to lack in respect when it comes to her best friend and his relationship. She calls it a whirlwind romance because they've only been together for 1.5 years, but that's not her place to say. Another thing that I find interesting is that she says how Adam has taken her on dates, but it's been nothing serious. They've made out a couple times, yes. It makes it sound like our OP used Adam, was probably a boy toy and led him on in some way, shape, or form, and he moved on. He found someone that made him happy, and their relationship probably hasn't been the same since. Because you can hear it in OP when she says, well, the reason why Adam doesn't really visit me anymore is because of his fiance now, and she has to travel a lot, which means apparently Adam has to go and deal with her. He doesn't spend time with me anymore. That's how her whole post came across. You have exactly what you pointed out, Timstradamus, where you say, now that you're no longer with your boyfriend, now Adam can come to your city, but not just to her city. The way that she says it, it's almost like Adam can spend the night at her place for the weekend so that she can show him around the town. But Adam's an engaged man and you're newly single. If it wasn't okay for him to visit your place when you had a boyfriend that was there, what makes it okay for an engaged man to come to your place now? As I said, there's a lot in this that screamed. It wasn't just entitlement. It was a bit of cattiness and a distaste in my mouth that I just can't quite equate, where you can definitely see where our OP had, in a way, used her best friend for perks, such as galas and being spoiled on her birthday. But now she doesn't even give the courtesy back because another point that you added in Timstradamus, it's her birthday weekend, but it doesn't fall on her actual birthday. It falls on the birthday weekend.
The only reason why I even brought up any of that was because she's like, I looked at my birthday as more of a celebration of our friendship. What were you doing with him if this was a celebration of your guys' friendship? What was your contribution to that? Just you showing up? Is that enough?
Apparently her presence is enough.
Got it.
I find it additionally funny that he messages her, hey, can you please RSVP? I'm just trying to get a proper head count. And she apparently feels so disrespected because there's going to be a guest there that she just cannot deal with.
Because it's her wedding.
That she just ignores him. She's all like, well, he's got other things to worry about. And instead, I'll just make it up by buying him a doormat. I think for Adam, if all that he's texting is just let me know, RSVP please, and you're being catty enough not to, you're clearly in the wrong.
The good thing is Adam knows who you are now. You're not a good friend.
I sum this up as Adam was toyed with and he found someone that wanted to make a life with him and he's moved on. Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about this situation when it comes to budgeting and traveling. Am I the a-hole for distrusting my boyfriend's travel plans after his poor budgeting left us in debt last time? I, female 26, and my boyfriend, male 25, switched to remote jobs at the same company 3 years ago. Around that time, he proposed we use our newfound freedom to travel the world since we had no local responsibilities. He was incredibly passionate about it and planned everything, so I followed his lead. For 6 months, we had amazing experiences. For context, even though he's a year younger, he had been living independently for 6 years while I was still with my family. This trip was my first time so far from home, and I had experiences I never would have had without his initiative. However, the joy didn't last long because we returned home about £1,600 in debt each. He had assured me our salaries would roughly cover the trip, but we ended up short every month, and his spontaneous booking of our return flight added several €100 to the cost. It took months to repay the debt, and since then my trust in his travel planning has been shattered. I was shocked when he said, in a few years, we won't think about the money anymore, but the experiences will stay with us forever. He has a different background, having looked after himself since he was 16 and experienced bigger financial lows and highs. For me, it was my first job, and being in debt for the first time really affected me mentally and scared me a lot. Since then, I've rejected all of his suggestions for longer trips or traveling outside Europe. Today, he approached me again, explaining he now understands how much debt affects me and has a new 1-month trip outside Europe in mind. He claimed he would ensure this trip stayed within our budget and emphasized that he wanted me to focus on our fond memories rather than the debt. He listened to my concerns and even reviewed our past finances to find ways to save money this time. He admitted his mistake with a spontaneous return flight booking and promised to book both flights together this time. Despite his efforts, I didn't want to approve the trip because I'm still disappointed by his previous recklessness. He also seemed to expect gratitude for planning everything during the first trip, which he never received because I was too angry about the aftermath. He appeared very disappointed by my rejection and lack of thanks. He reminded me we were both young and that he had learned a lot about travel planning and my needs, acknowledging how important financial stability is to me compared to him. His attitude made me angry, and I told him I wasn't just young. I was also stupid to blindly trust you. This hurt him deeply, and he was speechless for a while. I believe my concerns are valid, and his prioritization of adventure over stable finances still worries me. However, his reaction makes me question if I might be the a-hole here. Am I the a-hole?
This is definitely a problem I think a lot of couples, especially early on in their togetherness, have to walk through. Because, you get here where someone's a little more financially minded and the other one's more about traveling experiences. That's important. Whether you're young or you're old, doesn't matter. I love hearing it. You should travel when you're young. Get it all out. You can travel when you're old as well. It just depends on when you have the means to do it. And I've always heard this whole, we'll do it when the things don't creak and hurt. You'll still enjoy it the same amount, just in a different way. And different phases of life offer different viewpoints. You can be just as appreciative if you're traveling at 50, 60 than you're traveling at 20. I've heard it the other way around several times. That a lot of people wasted their early life traveling a lot, but they didn't respect or understand what they were being a part of. Because
their experiences,
they were
their joy.
Yeah, they were looking at it through a different lens, which again, a lot of people as they got older went and traveled the same places they did when they were younger, but said it was an entirely different experience just because of the perspective age offered. So she says it. She was living with her family, so obviously no real debt had been accrued at that point. So the first time she walks into it, she's handling it the way a lot of young kids do, and it can really play a game mentally with you if you're not prepared to handle it, which she says it. She feels safe when she's financially sound. That's her comfort zone. But we do have to take into account, they are 25 and 26.
And at the time, he was 22?
They're very young. This happened when they were very young. They're still young, but taking on I guess this was a month-long trip, supposedly?
6 months.
6 months! Taking on that type of trip.
6 months. And the only thing is $1,600.
That's not bad. I didn't realize this was 6 months. Plenty of people have gotten themselves into way worse debt on trips for much shorter. I don't think by far that's a bad deal to have taken. I'm not sure how early they cut off the 6-month trip because he said they abruptly flew back home. So I don't know.
No, I still think it was the 6 month. It's just that they had to abruptly buy the tickets home.
Okay. Now that maybe you could plan out a little bit better, have a going and a coming plan. That's always smart, but that's some stuff you learn along the way. He says it. He's learned. Those are good experiences to have. If the most was $3,200 together, I guess is for the debt.
Correct.
If that's as bad as it got, but you got the memories and the experience of it, it's just hard because her values are different. You're allowed to have your values and understand what makes you feel comfortable in life. I think that's important. It's really good that your boyfriend also understands those things about you now. But if you're going to hold things against people and not forgive and move forward to where you both can trust the decisions you make soundly, it's an unhealthy relationship to be inside of. not just for you, but for him as well. I would just say there's a better way to handle this situation. I don't hear where you're trying to also be a part of the planning. If you feel most comfortable when you are financially sound, you should also be in that room making those plans with him. Maybe that's a good way for you guys to push past the non-trust. Trust is important in a relationship. You have to have it. It was just, no, thank you. I don't want it. You got us in debt the last time and it was a horrible experience. It sounds like traveling's not for you. And that's okay. As long as you let your boyfriend know that. It doesn't have to be a no for him though. And hopefully you don't try to
strong arm him into staying.
Yeah. But if you don't feel comfortable with those decisions and you don't want to put forth the effort to make sure you plan it together, then I would just say let him go and have his fun. You don't have to be a part of it. Understand that no matter what you're going to do in life, you will always run the risk of having to take out more money than you thought. Even if you plan every single thing down to the dime. I can say that from experience.
The unexpected happens.
It does. You just have to roll with the punches and understand you're doing it together. Get in that room, start planning that stuff together, and then have a little bit of extra cushion just in case. So given all of that, I find that the OP is definitely the a-hole. I think she's struggling with trust, and in turn, she's taking that out on the boyfriend, and that could have some negative repercussions down the road as far as their relationship is concerned. You have to work on that, OP.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP is the a-hole. Redditors were shocked when they calculated that OP's boyfriend was only 22 years old, had planned out this trip fully, and OP did none of the planning. In fact, they said that they had amazing experiences. They touted it. But then they hold this one thing, this $1,600 that is their responsibility for. And then another Redditor brought forward, OP admitted that both parties spent extra every month. It wasn't just OP's boyfriend spending nilly-willy. And that now OP is solely getting upset with the boyfriend regarding this. The thing about being an adult is there's two in a relationship and two that decide that they want to do certain things. And if you're that afraid of debt, then you should have made that known. And whatever future trips that you guys would like to plan, make sure that that's accounted for. Because that's what the boyfriend's now doing 3 years later. He's acknowledged her fear. He's acknowledged that he's made changes. He's learned from everything that they've experienced before. But our OP instead holds it over their head. And that's not a good way to be in a relationship. A lot of people have fears, but you shouldn't use that to strong arm other people or to make them feel bad about past decisions. We all make mistakes and we all learn from them. This was a relatively small one. Timstradamus, you and I truly understand that. Well, let's go to our next story and see what you think about siblings tricking each other.
Love it.
Am I the a-hole for tricking my brother into selling me his half of our childhood home when demolishing it? My mom and dad divorced when I was young. My brother loved the fact that our mom had no rules for him, so he went with her. I abided by the custody agreement because I had no choice in the matter. My mom loves us both, but she dotes on my brother like he farts perfume. My dad kept the house. He had to buy my mom out. It was an old house built in 1953. It had old wiring and was really less than suitable for modern life. What it did have, though, was a huge yard that was great growing up. My dad passed away during COVID. He left everything equally between my brother and I. I wanted the house. I told my brother that we should tear it down and put in infill housing like the neighborhood is zoned for. He just wanted money. I bought out his half of the house at the market value. It was sold as a teardown. He took the money and bought a car and went on a vacation. He still has money left. Then I had the house demolished and built a fourplex. Each unit has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a small yard, and a garage. I kept 1 unit for myself and rent each of the other units for $2,000 a month. My mortgage is $1,800 a month for the entire thing. So basically, I live free and bank $4,000 a month. My brother is pissed that I didn't give him a unit to live in for him since it was his home too. I actually offered to sell him one at cost and he said no. I'm lost. I offered him a partnership. I paid a fair price. I offered to sell him a unit. I did everything to try and be fair. He thinks I tricked him because I get free money every month. Our mom said she would be cutting me out of her will and giving everything to him if I didn't give him a unit or the income from one. I agreed that was fair and said that I would no longer feel the need to contribute to her upkeep or retirement when the time came. I am being bombarded by the two of them, but I took the risks. I took on the debt. This is my money now. Am I the a-hole?
Absolutely not. Your family sucks. For the mere fact of him trying to manipulate you into believing that you tricked him. When you first read this title, I'm sitting here going, okay, where's the drop of the hat? When did it actually happen? He says that he gave him at market value pricing for his share of the home. Is that a trick? He says his brother valued one thing, the money at the time. Fair game. You got the money. He didn't swindle you.
He got a car. He got a vacation.
Still has
and he
money.
still has money.
He's even offered him at market value one of the condos, I believe. I don't see where he's wrong. Your brother, ROP, bought this outright. It's his to do what he wants with. He is correct. He put on all of that debt. I'm so happy that he didn't buckle under the pressure of the mother. How dare you say you owe him the rent from the home that he had zero to do with? Just because for the mere fact that he's your brother, you owe him something? You can see where the coddling is still happening.
In the end, ROP is the one that took out all the debt, because the thing is, you have to think about it. They purchased the land. They bought out their other sibling. That means that they had to take out a loan, pay their sibling in cash, and then take on that debt. And then on top of that, however much money it takes to construct all of that.
Yep. The risks you take, the zoning,
the permits.
If you can get people to rent there, all the upkeep, he's living there. You know, there's a lot of risk that was involved with this maneuver. And it paid off. Good for ROP. Hold your ground. You are not the a-hole.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. I find it funny because the simplicity of it is it's OP's property. End of story. OP said, my mom and him disagree. I have even offered to sell him a unit now at market value. He does not have enough and he can't qualify for a mortgage. If he had come in at the beginning, we could each have a unit for ourselves and $2,000 a month of income from our other unit with zero mortgage.
That's on him. He gave every opportunity to his brother to be a part of it, it sounds like. And he chose what he chose. I can't blame you for wanting to take the money and do what you wanted to. Some people have a mind for thinking ahead to tomorrow, and then some want the gratification instantly.
I find it funny that with OP's brother and his mom, the only thing that they can truly find fault with is that their brother's the a-hole for thinking things through.
At least they'll have each other as they grow older together, because it sounds like she's okay with threatening someone with the inheritance. That's never a good way to go about treating anybody.
I've always despised that. I've heard that before myself. And the one thing that I can say, if you as a person are waiting for someone else to hit the grave so that you can get a payout, that's pretty disgusting of you.
Or if the vice versa. If you're the type of person that looks at everyone and goes, I'm not going to give you a penny if you don't do what I demand.
You're still gross.
Just as bad.
Well, let's go to our very last story and see what you think about a nice little Father's Day story. This last one will be from our malicious compliance thread, and it's called Father's Day Compliance.
Oh.
18 years ago, not about, trust me, I know this one to the date. I was over Dad's house and I needed a wrench. And coming from a long line of mechanics, I knew he'd have one available as I didn't have my kit in my car. So I asked to borrow one. Dad, of course, said yes, handed me the mechanic's toolbox. And just out of habit, I opened it and immediately noticed that a Craftsman 7/16 ratchet end wrench was missing. Again, I come from a long line of mechanics. Every tool has its place, be it in a drawer, box, or outlined on a pegboard. And I thought it was weird that Dad lost a wrench out of the spare/house tool kit. You're missing a 7/16, I pointed out, showing him the missing slot. Now Dad, being Dad, just had to bust on me a bit. So looking me dead in the eyes and beaming a huge smile, he responded, "It was there when I gave it to you." Mind you, I hadn't left the kitchen. I hadn't so much as shifted my feet. I knew he was lying. He knew he was lying. But it had been ingrained in me since childhood that losing a tool is a death sentence. Now, I knew he was busting my balls and I let it go. But from that day forward, anytime we needed something, he'd make a comment like, "Sure wish I had that 7/16 wrench that coyote lost." Or, "You know what would fix it? That missing 7/16 wrench." This went on for months. So one day, he made the usual tease me for losing a tool comment, and I warned him. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Say it one more time, old man, and you're going to get that wrench every birthday, Father's Day, and Christmas for the rest of your natural life." A few hours passed. I asked him to hand me a tool, and he said, "I can't. You lost it, remember?" I laughed and played it off, but it was on, and that was 18 years ago. Today, being Father's Day, he just received his 52nd Craftsman ratchet end 7/16 wrench. Since that day, he's tried telling me that he knows that I didn't lose it. I knew that already. That I don't need to buy it. Oh, I do. And he's occasionally tried to say it was a different size or item to get a different present, but we both know that's not happening. They're everywhere. Every coffee can, junk drawer, cabinet, toolbox, pegboard, or spare nail in the house and garage contains a Craftsman 7/16 ratchet end wrench. You know how they say you're never more than 8 feet from a spider? Well, in Dad's world, you're never more than 7 feet from a Craftsman 7/16 ratchet end wrench, because there are at least 2 in his truck at this point as well. When will it end? When the old bastard dies. The last wrench will go in his cold, dead hand so he can tighten bolts in hell, because I warned him. God damn it, I warned him. Happy Father's Day to all of you with weird traditions, jokes, and relationships with the man who made you who you are today. And if you need a wrench, hit me up. I know a guy. Too long don't read? Dad teased me about losing a tool he lost, and I've replaced it to, as of today, 52 times. Update. Number 53 wrench. Go ahead. I sent you a picture of it.
In case of emergency, break the glass. What a fantastic story.
53. What is it? Craftsman 7/16 ratchet end wrench.
What a funny and interesting tradition that they have created for themselves. He's like, it's going to be in your cold, dead hands so you can fix things in hell.
So you can tighten bolts into hell, because I warned him. God damn, I warned him. I thought this was too cute to pass up.
Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story. Can you imagine having that many wrenches? Specific wrenches. And he was trying, apparently. He was like, it was actually this other tool. And our OP's like, I will never forget it.
I can imagine having a running inside joke like that. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We have changed, or are going to change, our uploading schedule. On Mondays and Wednesdays, you'll be receiving Am I the A-Hole posts here on YouTube, and our Damas After Dark will be on Fridays. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below.
Yes, what did you think about the stories today?
Which one really tickled your fancy, was really dramatic, or actually upset you a little?
I think the one that really perturbed me was probably the tattoo. I just don't see a win there. Not for the lesson you're trying to teach, nor for you as a person.
The one that dug under my skin the wrong way was the person showing up unannounced because the family had to respect what they wear.
Oh, yeah. There was a couple of them, I guess, that were very eyebrow raising as to what boundaries look like for different folks, or lack thereof.
It's a mess.
Hopefully they can learn, though. That's all I hope for when I hear these type of stories.
And I know we were just a little bad because we forgot to actually wish a belated Father's Day on our last video. So I wanted to go ahead and say to all those daddies out there, happy belated Father's Day. There was a lot of morning sickness on our part as we found out that we're going to have another baby.
Morning sickness, ER trip. It was a lot these last couple of weeks. And
gallstone problems. It's a whole thing.
And remember, if you post it, hopefully the morning sickness will stop soon.
Oh God, I hope so.